So in this mini lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about capitalization. You need to make sure that you go ahead and get the sheet that you see on your screen right here, glue it into your notebook, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, make sure you have a highlighter and or other colors with you so that you can be annotating or marking the text as we go. It's not really annotating, it's more marking the text. So, all right, if you need to hit pause, and otherwise, we're going to talk about how this is organized. Okay, so here we go. This is a chart that explains some of the rules of capitalization. As I kept going, I realized there's lots and lots of things that get capitalized. And so I'm going to kind of breeze through some of this because some I expect you to know, and then other ones are ones that may be a little bit more complicated. Again, you probably won't catch every single one of these every single time, but I do want for you to start putting all of these ideas together into your capitalization bank that you have going. Okay, so the first thing is a proper noun. So a proper noun is a person, place, or thing, but a proper noun is a specifically named. So if you're just talking like my mom, then that is not a proper noun. It's a common noun. Okay, but if you are addressing your mother as mom, you're like, hey, mom, how are you today? You are calling her mom as if that's her name, then it's capitalized. The same thing would be my grandpa versus grandpa, or my aunt versus Aunt Sue, or my whatever versus a specific person whom you address by that nickname. So even if you have like if you call your grandma or aunt or something Nini, that would be capitalized because that is her name according to you, and therefore it becomes capitalized. Or sometimes I call my son Bug, and because I'm using it as a name toward him, I would capitalize Bug if I were writing a piece where I was addressing him as that. So again, so proper person, proper places. You can see different examples here. A proper thing. Sometimes these are places that you could also go to. The Brooklyn Bridge is a place you can go. However, it is also an object, and therefore it kind of hits both of them. But overall, the name of the bridge itself is the Brooklyn Bridge. You have the USS Missouri. These are, that's a ship. Liberty Bell, etc. You can kind of see what's going on here. We have named events. These would be things that have a specific title to them. Again, you have wars, you have sporting events, you have the World Series, the Super Bowl, historical events. We had Watergate. This is a court case right here that was just going through the U.S. Supreme Court. You can look it up if you want to know what that is. Hurricane Irma just happened and caused all that destruction. So that is an event with a specific name. If I say, hey, Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Irma, people know what I'm talking about. Okay, therefore it can be a proper noun named event. Theater in the park. If I'm talking about going to theater in the park as a general sense, like going to a park for theater, it wouldn't be, but there are many parks that have theater in the park in the summertime. That's the name of it. Or Shakespeare in the park. That's the title of the event. And then the plays are different depending on what goes on there. You could even do the movies in the park, which a lot of them are doing. And if that's the name of the event, it would be capitalized or could be capitalized. Okay. We have brand names. You see all kinds of different, you have clothing brand names. You have Jif peanut butter. Peanut butter wouldn't be, but because it's Jif peanut butter, it would be. Cool Ranch Doritos, that's the name of the Doritos. So brand names are capitalized. Here's your I words, always capitalized. I'm, I've, and I'll are always capitalized. These are contractions of I. You see how I is standing by itself. If I is by itself, it is capitalized. And you're like, oh, but there's an M here. Yeah, but it's separated by an apostrophe, which means this actually stands for two words, I am, and therefore I is by itself. So if I is not directly touching another letter, it is by itself and therefore needs to be capitalized. This is getting into the land of non-negotiable. I should not be capitalizing I for you ever. Okay? Holidays, days, months, eras. This is like Labor Day, Easter, May. I had the Roaring 20s on here. That would be the name of an era. That's the name of an era, yeah, like I just said. First word in sentences, you can see that I have the and how. That one I expect you to already know, no problem. languages and classes. So we have English, Spanish, which can be languages or classes. Biology, algebra, history. So here's how these work. If you are just going to a biology class, and so it's not the title of the class, like on your schedule or in the syllabus is not biology, it may not be capitalized because biology is also a field of science. But if you are going to class and the name of the class is biology, that's when it would be capitalized. Social studies is another one. If you are going just to social studies, that can be history, psychology, sociology, world history, government, it can be any of those. And so if the name of your class, like often in middle school, is social studies, then it would be capitalized or could be capitalized. Whereas it, generally speaking, in high school, social studies is all encompassing. And so unless the class is called that, it's usually not going to be capitalized. So that's what this right here is. If that's the class name, doing algebra like you would do here, where you're like, 2a plus b equals 5, and then you solve for something, that's just doing algebra. But if you are in a class and that class is called algebra, then it can be capitalized. So it's kind of that weird, like, but if it's the name of the class, capitalized. If it's just what you're doing in the class, not capitalized. So studying biology and science class, not capitalized. Going to biology class and you're dissecting frogs or something, then you capitalize it. I know it's a little confusing. So this one's probably one that you may not have heard that rule for, so maybe you put a special note there, a star. You have titles of stories, movies, songs, poems. So there's books. These would also be either italicized or underlined. I didn't do that on here, and that's okay. Notice, like here is fish in a tree. The F is capitalized, but in a, those little teeny tiny words, in a, of, the, and, on, etc., tend to not be capitalized in a title. So those ones don't need to be. Then you see that tree at the end is. Always the first word is capitalized, always the last word is capitalized, and then the ones in between, it depends. Okay, I have let it go, cat in the hat. You can see that the first two are, but the middle is not. Yeah, same thing with song lyrics, etc. So, and you may see it capitalized. It's not necessarily, I don't think, incorrect. And I think it could be debatable because it's actually a pronoun, and so we get into all kinds of fun stuff there. All right. And then finally, titles as far as for people, like what you could put in front of someone's name. So like Dr. Phil, Judge Judy, Mrs. Wynn, President Truman, Principal Jim, Reverend King, Mr. Jackson. So as you see these would be your titles that I am talking about right here. Okay. What it is not is if you are going to the doctor, you don't capitalize doctor, but if you are going to see Dr. Phil, then it would be capitalized because it's specific to that person. Okay, just like any of your teachers, you have the first name, or the Mrs. or Mr. is capitalized, or the Ms. Or even Miss. All of those are capitalized if they're addressing as a name. Okay, now what I want for you to do is this. Okay, this is a lot of information on here. So I want for you to go through and maybe mark 1 or 2 spots where you know that you are struggling as a capitalizer. So maybe you're like, you know what, I don't have any issues capitalizing names. I do that all the time. I also capitalize all my I's and everything, but man, this languages and classes thing, I don't know if I do that all the time. And then so you can go and put a star in that box, or maybe you want to highlight those 2 right there because you want to pay special attention to those, or maybe you need the titles. It's okay right now if your thing is the I words, own it and mark it. If you are not capitalizing I, mark this one because I expect you to be doing this, and this is top priority. This one and first words in sentences, these 2 right here, I expect that we do very, very consistently. Okay, also coming over here, but these 2 right here should be non-negotiable. So if these 2 are your thing, mark those 2 and only those 2. If one of these 2 is your thing, mark this one and one other one. Otherwise, take a look Go back into your writing and see if you can find any proper nouns, see how you did, see if you need to, or not proper nouns necessarily, but any places to capitalize where you needed to that maybe you didn't. Or on the bottom of this page here where you've glued, write 2 sentences where you try something that you marked. So if you're like, okay, I needed to do the I, maybe your sentence you did I and then a class, you can say I am going to IO 2 on Friday. So there I have and it's the beginning of the sentence, I have the name of the class, and I have a day of the week. So write 2 sentences down below where you practice any of those that you see. Maybe it's the book that you've read or what you're doing this weekend. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you practice the skill as a whole. After you do that, go ahead and bring it on up to me and let me see it. Talk to you soon.